This episode is brought to you by members of the You Run Podcast Network. Dewey Pod Monster, Movies 4 Days, Pop Culture Reflections, Voices from the Mausoleum, You Gonna Eat That Crust, Video Tasties, The Ghoulish Gallery, The Girl and the Gay Podcast, The Horror Friendly Podcast, and The Aardvark and the Magic Moshi Do Red Dwarf. All available at yourunpodcast.com. I've changed things around. I thought I'd do the quote now instead of before I played the music because I completely forgot.
It's okay.
The only thing missing from the scene is blood. There is no blood. It appears the body may have been drained and scrubbed before it was placed. That was the quote from the detective who arrived at the scene.
Yeah, obviously it was Dr. Hodel who did it. Like, no shit, he's a doctor. Like, he scrubbed it. Don't you scrub before you do surgeries? Like,
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
We've both got different suspects, and I've done more of a deep dive on both of them for this episode.
Yeah.
We got a couple of other suspects as well, and some other stuff to throw in. But hello, this is the True Crime Podcast by the You Run Podcast. My name is Scott.
And I'm Heather.
And we are your opinionated, quite unconventional hosts of a true crime show. Unlike others, we don't do it with the music behind us and go, and then she entered the bedroom. And then I'm reading from Wikipedia. We don't do that. We tell you it as it is. We share our thoughts. We share our opinions. We produce 2 episodes a month, one on the 1st and one on the 15th. Sometimes it will be 2 separate cases. Other times it might be part 1 and 2 of a 4-parter. We give the cases as much time as we feel they need. If it needs an hour and we wrap it and that's it done, that's it done.
Yeah.
If it takes 4 episodes or 10 episodes, it takes what it takes.
There you go.
You can get in touch with the show. It's really easy. Drop us an email, yourunpodcast@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail on Instagram or on X by sending an audio message DM. All you need to do is hold the microphone down, and that will record a message we can play on the air. And we have one, which I've forgotten to load into the episode, so I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way.
Unprofessional. I'm going to fire you. I'm going to fire you from your own show.
Right, here we go. Right, let's see if I can get this to work.
Let's see.
Anyone who's watching this on Rumble, hello everyone on Rumble, is going to look at this again. This is the most unprofessional shit ever.
Look, you know what? You're here to listen, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, here we go.
Hi Scott, Heather. Just listening to the Tiger King episodes, and Heather, I've just got one thing which you really seem to be forgetting about Don. If you're in a different country, it isn't actually cheating. This is very well known.
It's
he's trying to justification.
He sent that message saying that if he's in another country, Don really wasn't cheating, and then instantly sent me a message going, basically, I'm only joking. I've been married for 23 years. I know that that's not the case, but I'd like to see how Heather reacts to it. I was like,
he's not ludicrous, okay? He don't have hoes in different area codes. So, actually, I guess he does, technically.
Don did,
but he's still cheating. Who was it that left us the voice message?
It's Dave B. Movies from TikTok. He's a lovely guy. He was only joking. He wanted to see how you would react.
Me. Look, this is my face. You caught me at a time where I am a little bit under the weather. Let me explain that to our audience. Like, I do feel like dog shit covered in dog shit, but I put on a good face. I'm trying to bring my best self, but I feel like shit. So I think that under normal circumstances, I've probably been like, the fuck? But I'm, anyways, it is still cheating, you guys, and it's okay. I know he was just kidding, but don't do
Yeah, don't do that. And if
that.
you do that, don't get caught because then your wife will feed you to a tiger.
Don't tell us.
Yeah.
I'll snitch on you.
No, you can't do that because snitches get stitches.
Well, I don't give a shit. I'm not scared.
Uh, Also, make sure you drop us a follow across social media. We're at You Run Podcast everywhere. That's where you can get
Yes.
involved in the cases. You can pick what cases we cover. If on your travels you land on Instagram while you're there, type in Wednesday Wine and Horror and give Heather a
Sure.
follow as well. Remember, if you like the show, leave us a 5-star review. That really, really helps. And if you're one of our wonderful viewers on Rumble, which are growing quite quickly, make sure
Awesome.
you follow, make sure you drop us a like, say
Yeah.
something in the comments, compliment Heather on her wonderful t-shirt that says Heather on it.
It says Heather's. It's from the movie. You know
Finally,
how I am. Like, you think I'm not going to own a shirt with my name on it?
yeah. Speaking of shirts with your name on it, that's an excellent segue into if you'd like to support the show financially, go and buy a t-shirt with Heather's face on it, which is there. It's beautiful, wonderful.
We're gonna have more options, Scott. Eventually, I will remember to be like, "Hey, do this one, do this one." We've got to have more options and some more colors on those shirts as well. So we've got different color backgrounds, different facial expressions, but always bitch.
Yeah, I think we may get some other expressions from you. I'm going to go back and listen to some episodes and get some of your catchphrases.
Oh gosh, if you screenshot me like some of my pals on Instagram and they like share the story, and I'm like. I'm like, I love my face. Thank you so much. I make some faces, y'all. So like literally, I live in the South. We're very expressive folk. That's what we do. We talk with our hands and we make a lot of faces.
Yeah. Anyway, if you no, let me start again. Anyway, we have a great episode lined up today.
Yes.
We're going to do a deeper dive into the case of the Black Dahlia, share a few more suspects, discuss the letters the police got, tell you how much of a better job the LAPD done than the FBI that actually investigated it, which is a good start. Also reveal 2 potential crime scenes for the murder of Elizabeth Short. Now, it's a good time if you've not listened to the first episode to maybe stop this one and go and listen to that, because I'm going to give you a very brief recap and then we're just jumping in midway through. So if you don't know this case, if you don't know it, go listen to episode 1, then come here and listen to episode 2.
Yes.
Last time we told you what happened to Elizabeth Short. We told you what led up to her body being discovered, how her body was discovered being severed clean in 2. We spoke about the FBI's shocking lack of organization of their case files and their investigation as a whole. Heather mentioned last time that the case notes, the handwritten ones, were atrocious and said that
I can't.
Yeah, and you wanted us to share one of those, so we've done that. So look at that.
You guys, honestly, this was in the 40s. So this is my thing. I don't know what kind of like I'm not a police officer, but police work don't be policing too well in these notes and stuff, because this looks like if you went to the market and you're making a grocery list and you're like, oh, we're not having fucking Doritos, let's scratch it out. Like, it's ridiculous. And to me, it is unprofessional. It's unscathed. You cannot follow what the fuck is going on with this. We have no idea. Only the people that did these crazy ass notes maybe know what their direction was. But how are we supposed to look at anything and figure anything out?
Well, we're just not. I mean, this one, I've pieced some of it together. This is a letter to J. Edgar Hoover, and it's a potential suspect with like 9 bullet points of what he may or may not look like.
Yeah,
but it's terrible.
Well, why'd you put it as a list like you're going to go to the grocery store? You're like, I need an onion. He's 6'10", 5'10". You can't even read it. That's what I'm saying. It's not done correctly, right? It's like in a list.
He's also got red hair and handsome. Or is that a pair of hair and handsome?
I can't, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't tell. Like, also, I don't really like redheads. It's not really my thing. Like, are they handsome? They are handsome if that's what you like. So I've heard they don't have souls. I don't know though.
You said it before I did.
I
It
know
was
because
on
we
the.
know each other's brains. But
That's South
seriously, you
Park's
guys,
fault.
yeah, exactly. But seriously, you guys, he's showing you this because there were what? How many was it? 162 or what? Am I off?
Yeah,
Way more
there's
pages.
163 in the first document and
63.
300 and something in the second document.
The fuck are you doing? Like, I don't even understand that. It literally makes no sense because it was like, this is why it didn't go. This is probably why it was not solved. Like, it's
Yeah,
not solved for many factors that, we didn't have the technology, but also who the fuck is in charge of taking notes?
yeah. It's like the FBI were never solving this with their case notes, not in a
Mm-mm,
million years.
mm-mm.
Last time we also went over the medical examiner's report and we detailed the
Yeah.
injuries that she suffered. We floated the
Uh-huh.
idea that perhaps she was a call girl. Two of the suspects in the
Yeah.
last episode, George Hodell and Walter Bailey, both doctors, stuck out as prime
Yes.
suspects, one to me and one to Heather. We're going to be going into them in a little bit more detail. We're also going to try and piece together what may have happened in that lost week from when she disappeared to when she was found.
Yeah.
But first of all, I want to speak about the letters. So we
Okay.
mentioned this in the last episode. So on the 21st of January, 6 days after Elizabeth's body was discovered, the Examiner newspaper received a telephone call from the alleged killer. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the killer mocked them, saying that you'll never catch me. And basically, the paper called his bluff and said, well, we
Yeah.
probably will, but we don't believe you're the killer. So
Yeah.
he had a meltdown on the phone and went, well, I can prove it. I'm going to send you some souvenirs of Elizabeth's to prove I am who I say I am.
Okay.
Now, sure enough, to his word, a few days later, a letter arrived at the newspaper. And
Mm-hmm.
this was the envelope.
Okay. Well,
Like,
and before you start, I want to let you guys know that reminds me of, and this will only be for a very small little circle of you people out there who've ever seen, it was in the 90s, Serial Mom with Kathleen Turner, where she is harassing her neighbor and sends a note that says, I'll get you pussy face with cutout magazine. That's what the fuck it looks like. So was Kathleen Turner the Black Dahlia murderer? Like, who knows, right? At this point. But literally, my sister sent me, as a joke, one day I checked my mail. This was 100 years ago. Sent me a letter that said, I'll get you pussy face, just like that. And I was like, bitch, I know it's you. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is that looks like something that it doesn't look convincing.
no, see, it didn't look convincing to
Whatever.
me.
No.
But when they opened it, I was a little bit more convinced. So
Okay.
inside was Elizabeth Short's birth certificate, the original.
Okay.
There was business
Okay.
cards of people that she knew. There was
Hmm.
photographs of her and her address book with the name Mark
Okay.
Hanson embossed across the
Hmm.
front. So
Hmm.
this was the contents of the envelope.
The stuff that was in there. Uh-huh.
So
Mm.
there's stuff in there to say that whoever sent this in did have access to her. Now, on the
Okay.
envelope,
Yeah.
all of the letters, like all of the individual letters, were all cut out of newspapers and articles and other things to make that like serial killer montage you get on the envelope.
Yeah.
They cleaned it with gasoline to get rid of any fingerprints or any
Yeah.
evidence that may be there. Um, Also, her body was cleaned with gasoline, and the
Yeah.
theory is that it's the same gasoline, but again, at the time, gasoline was gasoline. They couldn't tell you the difference between them.
No, you wouldn't be able to know that. And that, to me, that would just be a way that they would have just assumed then, because of no DNA technology, you could clean her with pretty much whatever, probably, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
yeah,
You wouldn't have
you could
found fingerprints because they weren't doing that type of technology yet. So you could have maybe not fucking cleaned her at all, right?
yeah, policing in the 40s was not the best.
No.
So the name on the book was Mark Hansen. Now,
Mhm.
Hansen owned a nightclub and he was suspected of being a pimp at the time.
Yeah.
LAPD interviewed him as soon as they got this book. Like straight away, they knew who it was. They went and interviewed him, but he had a solid alibi for the days leading
Mhm.
up to her disappearance and for when she was gone. Now,
Yeah.
he was discounted as a suspect completely for 2 years until someone who worked with Hansen, this is someone called Leslie Dixon, called the
Mhm.
LAPD. They used a false name and claimed that Hansen and another man, Jeff Connors, killed Elizabeth. Um, Now, this was allegedly over the fact that Elizabeth refused sexual advances of Hansen. So Hansen tried it on. She said no. He had her
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what made this quite believable to me is when Leslie Dillon spoke to police, he knew information about the crime scene that was not released.
Mhm.
He knew about items that were found that you just would not have got from the papers. This is stuff that was closely guarded. But again, in the 40s, information spread like wildfire. Like everyone was on the take. Everyone told everyone everything.
Yeah, but my thing is, my one of my issues with this information is that you have these people, suspects, coming up and they're like, "Oh, I have this information. I have a birth certificate, blah 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 blah," like all this stuff, right? But it's almost like you aren't going to do anything else about it. Like it just almost felt like it was they were being toyed with, meaning that it could have been people even potentially in the murder. I know that I believe it's just one person, but that doesn't mean that other people were not somewhat involved in other things surrounding the murder. The
Yeah.
doctor could have been wealthy and who was wealthy. Anyways, my thing is it's like they're just toying. And so the police are like, "Are you a pussy? Like, do you not want to follow up and kind of dig into this and be aggressive?" It doesn't really make any sense because it almost feels like me and you could have been like, "Ha ha 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 ha, we have it." That's what it's like, a children's game. That's literally what they're doing, and the police are like, "Nah, fam, we're good. We
Yeah,
don't care."
I'm going to defend the LAPD because the LAPD responded to this and they went and interviewed all
Okay.
3 men. The FBI done nothing, but the
Yeah,
LAPD went and
yeah,
interviewed all of them. And they
yeah.
visited the Astor Motel, which is the motel that Hanson was staying at,
Mhm.
and they interviewed staff there. And some of the cleaning staff said around the time that she disappeared, they found a room full of blood and were told to just clean it and shut up,
It's
which
so
they
so
now.
crazy.
There's also sightings of a woman who matched Elizabeth's description being there
Mhm.
on the night that she disappeared.
Mhm.
But there's no CCTV. These are all eyewitness
No.
accounts, and it
Just
means,
hearsay.
yeah, yeah. Hansen doesn't do much to defend himself. He told reporters that she was looking for trouble. She probably
Yeah.
went too far this time and pushed some
Mhm.
guy into a blind berserk rage.
No,
And then
no,
he
no,
kind
no,
of
no.
laughed it off.
I'm gonna no, because that is giving justification for her being murdered. Then that's basically like saying, "Well, she was being a bitch and she was she was pissing me off." Like you're not responsible for somebody else's fucking behavior. PSA, like even if she was like acting cray cray, we don't know that, but
No.
it's just you can't justify the murder by just being like, "Oh, she set this fellow off."
Yeah. It
Okay. I
doesn't.
I set my husband off every fucking day. Bitch, you ain't gonna kill me.
No, probably because he's absolutely terrified of even threatening to
He
do
loves
that.
me. He loves
Yeah.
me like people love Jesus in heaven. Okay. I'm an angel. Get it together.
Now, it was all of this that got me trying to dig into what happened with her movements. Like after Robert
Mhm.
Manley dropped her off at the hotel, where
Yeah.
did she go? Not what did she do? Now, none of this can be confirmed. It's all apparent sightings, and it's me trying to piece it together. And I even
Yeah, of
had like
course.
I created a digital pin board on my computer with a map, and I was dropping pins, and I
I
I
love
went really. I went really in depth on this.
You're like
Um,
the Always Sunny episode, right? Was it the
yeah,
not Charlie, but maybe his name's Charlie, but he's like the red string everywhere where you're like trying to figure it out.
I was that guy, and I was like arms
Yeah.
in the air, like yeah, that was me. Um, so the notebook with Mark Hanson's name on it
Uh-huh.
was full of numbers and names of male people, of men.
Okay.
Now, this confirmed to me that what I already thought, that Elizabeth was in fact a prostitute.
Hmm.
This is where I'm going with this. Now, the LAPD interviewed every single person in that book. They put in the work, but all of it led to nowhere, which also led me to nowhere, which pissed me off. Now
Yeah.
we know I was so annoyed. I was like, "Oh, they've interviewed everyone," and I had the case file. I was like,
Yeah.
I read every single interview, and every single interview was no follow up required. I was like, "For fuck's sake!"
Yep.
We know on the 9th of January that Red drops Elizabeth off at the hotel. We
Hmm.
know she was seen in the lobby taking a phone call, and
Yeah.
we know she was seen later that evening in a cocktail bar. Now, her body was discovered 5 days later. So that's almost an entire week that's disappeared. So
Yeah.
the Crown Cocktail Lounge is less than a quarter of a mile from her hotel where she was staying. But she was seen as at the Astor Motel, which is about a mile away, by staff the same evening. So I'm assuming that she was basically working in the bar to get a John, and then she got a John, and she was taken to the Astor Hotel to work. Now, there's no reported sightings after this, and this is where Steve Hodel steps in. So this is George Hodel, Heather's prime
His
suspect.
son.
This is his
Hmm.
son. So
Yeah.
Steve Hodel believes his father killed the Black Dahlia. He's convinced, and he's got a lot of compelling evidence that would sway you that way. Now,
Yep.
he says that the 6 days missing is a myth, and it's just the fact that the where she was dumped is not a prime bit of real estate, it's a bit of wasteland, and it
Okay.
simply took 6 days for them to find the body. She wasn't anywhere having things done to her. She was tortured and killed in one night and then dumped and just not found for a week.
Mm, I don't know. I mean, like, because from what we learned, that the lady and her toddler, her child, were strolling and they found her. To me, that doesn't seem like it's out in the desert or out in the woods somewhere. So that kind of sounds a little conflicting in my brain because I'm like, and I do think that everything was done to her in one night. I think that was the whole point. Like she was killed. All that could be done to her in one night and then laid out
Yeah,
for display, humiliation, really not display. And that's what happened. I don't think there was any lingering, like, I'm going to torture her for 5 or 6 days and then do this to her body. No, I think all this shit was done because if you have those skills, you can do it quickly. You can
yeah,
you can drain her body. Like you could do all these things because you know what you're doing.
yeah. I agree completely.
Yeah.
And this is where Heather's going to get all excited because I'm going to go all into George Hotel, and I'm basically going to set this guy up as he done it. So um, let's assume that George Hodel used Elizabeth Short's services as an escort, as a
Yeah.
prostitute.
Yeah.
And let's assume that maybe he likes things a bit rougher than the average male, which is not unheard of. I think he calls her things get out of hand. And I
Mhm.
think the initial murder, the blows to the head which caused her death, I think were unintentional. I think he killed her by accident. He then drains her, severs her in
Mhm.
half, mutilates her body, and then
Mhm.
transports her and gets rid of her. Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
got me questioning, how did he transport her? How do you move a body around LA, prime real estate LA, without being seen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I found loads of information. So Hodel had large 50-pound sacks of concrete delivered to his house the day
Mhm.
after she disappeared.
Yes.
Now, Steve Hodel claims these are identical to fragments of the bag that were found at the crime scene. This can't be confirmed, but looking at images side by side, I kind of think they are as well. Now,
Mhm.
this is where it gets a bit murky, and I didn't know any of this existed. On the 10th of January, another body was discovered, and this was Janine French. She was also found on a vacant lot, posed with the words "fuck you, BD" written on her stomach in lipstick. Now, many people think that that is "fuck you, Black Dahlia," and this is the image of that.
Yeah. I think
Now,
that's what I feel like I would think that's what it meant.
George Hodel was suspected and investigated for this crime also. He was also
Yes.
investigated for this murder. He was
Mhm.
also linked to a murder in 1950. So in
Mhm.
1950, when all of this was kind of coming back at him, it was coming back around and they were looking at him again, he fled to the Philippines. And when
Yes.
he was there, would you believe it? A girl was found on a vacant lot in the same way as Elizabeth Short, this time with a severed head instead of being cut clean in half. Drained of blood again, identical in every possible way apart from where he cut her.
Y'all see my hands going up and my face making all these facial expressions because like I let Scott talk. But let me tell y'all, this is not a coincidence because like what are like what's happening?
Yeah, and like I'm coming round to your way of thinking on it. Like George seems like he had the opportunity, he had the skill set to complete these murders. He's linked to these other crimes in two different countries, and
Yep.
I agree. There's no such thing as a coincidence.
His own son, like it's spent 15 plus years basically being like, yeah, my dad's a piece of shit. Like my dad had these secrets, found like once his dad passed away, it was like got access to all his belongings, personal belongings, and it's like found a picture. Now the picture is just more or less he is making an accusation, an assumption that it is her because it's very like looks similar to her. I'm
Yeah,
not 100% sure that the picture that I've ever seen it. I don't believe so because I don't think it's shown for some reason. But there's all these clues and all this stuff. Plus, he knew his dad was a very skilled surgeon and everything lined up with a time frame of when he would have gone to school to learn those surgical procedures,
yeah,
et cetera, et cetera. So my thing is like your own father, his own son is like, yeah. Now is could he be a little nutball that's like, I'm gonna do this for notoriety? But I don't think so because I really feel like his son, Steve, was like, yeah, man, my dad did this shit. And like obviously now I can't do anything about it because his dad is George Hodel is dead. And his
yeah, and
son's like very old now.
yeah, and again, I agree. I've seen Steve Hodel interviewed many times now, and he is
Yeah.
very genuine. And
Yeah.
I genuinely believe he is convinced of everything he's saying. He's not trying to spin a line. This isn't to make money. This
Don't
is
think
he.
so.
No, I don't. Now, Hodel was a high-standing doctor who had
Hmm.
no reported violent ways. He was trialed for sexual assault on his daughter, um,
Yes.
but even in her statement, she said that he was never aggressive towards her. He's not a violent man.
Well,
To clarify, this guy's an absolute scumbag, and I am in no way defending him
I
whatsoever.
mean, what it is, there's no justification just because he wasn't violent towards her. I mean, it was his daughter. He was probably trying to groom her slowly, and he would, of course, probably be gentle, right? To
Yeah,
maybe coerce her into doing it. Like, the fuck?
yeah. My question is, what's his
No.
motive? Like, what's his motive for
Hmm.
these murders? And this is where I'm turning to you. Why did he do it? Why did he decide to potentially murder three people and mutilate their bodies?
I mean, honestly, my opinion, because I don't know for sure. You know this. I don't know why. Okay, I feel very confident that it was him that did it. But I feel like you have killers, as much as we've done this show and the type of killers that we've dealt with. you have people that kill for the thrill, they kill out of rage, they kill pure evil, right? You
Yeah.
have stuff like that. And for me, I think this man killed out of more of a rage thing. You know how you mentioned that she had the blunt force trauma to her head, and you're like, I don't really think that like he purposefully like busted her in the head. It was a sexual thing gone bad, perhaps. But to add to that, I don't think that it was necessarily that. I think that he was violent with her, and I don't know that he panicked. He could have panicked, right? And like, oh my God. But then when you think
Yeah.
about it, think about the strategic acts that were done to her. Think about the way she was positioned. This seems like he maybe did kill her out of rage, but it feels like he killed her out of some sick, sadistic gratification, because you're not going to do all of that stuff out of rage, Scott. You're not
No.
just going to be like, oh my God, we were fooling around and she busted her head open and now I have to pose her with her body in half. That's not what happened. It started out as probably sexual and it got intensified, and I feel like he enjoyed it. Some people are sadists and they get
Yeah.
sexual gratification from that. And it leads me into talk real quick about the American Horror Story, a little bit that they did in Murder House. It's season 1 Murder House. So they basically had Mina Savari, actress who is portraying the Black Dahlia, and how she dies in the episode is that she goes to see this dentist, not unlike a doctor,
Yeah.
Hodel, and she sees the dentist, and she doesn't have money because she's a struggling actress and trying to make it. He decides to do her filling for free, gives her too much gas, and sexually assaults her,
Yeah.
basically like rapes her while she's under, but tries to wake her back up, and he can't because he has killed her. And then, real quick, sorry, I'm going on my
No,
rampage
you
rant.
fine.
But so after that, he is not the one in the series that murders her. Well, I say murders her. He did murder her. It was accidental. He was just a fucking sicko creep.
Yeah.
They're in the story, for any of you guys that have seen American Horror Story. So the doctor from like I think it was like early 1900s, which would make sense that it would be around the night, around that
Yeah.
time. He is a ghost now or whatever. So he basically, because they live in the murder house, he basically tells the other doctor, the dentist guy, like, I'll take care of it. And he's lost his fucking mind. He wanted to be like this creator, and he was a surgeon. So the next thing that you see is her body with a forced smile, cut in half, and all that. And it's basically like the dentist is like, what the fuck have you done? And that's kind of, if you think about it, it's so loosely based on the real case, but they
Yeah.
fabricated it because they made it seem like her death was, oh, the dentist guy killed her because he was raping her while she was under, because he's a pervert. But
Yeah.
then the other doctor is the
Yeah.
one who actually did it, and I don't remember his name because my God, it's been forever since I've seen that. But it always was interesting to me because I was like, some people just like to kill, Scott, because they like to kill. They enjoy it. They get, there are lots of killers that get sexual gratification. So to be honest with you, the fact that he tried to sexually assault his own daughter, he's doing this for a sexual, sick, twisted gratification.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
opinion. That's what I think he did. So
Yeah, I can be swayed to agree with you on that as well. I think what
yeah,
bothers me a lot about this case, not just with George Hodel, but with everyone,
yeah,
the motive is the thing that's lacking. That's the thing that's not conclusive because of how heinous the crime is. This isn't a murder and a body dump. This is this is so much more than that. And I
Mm,
I think we can kind of conclusively say that she was an escort. I think we're fairly safe to say that based on her black book and all of the male, should we call them suitors that she had. And I think
well, yeah, her
with
Johns, whatever. I guess
yeah,
you would call it that. But I'm not sure that I would actually call her an actual escort as much as, I see what you're saying. I'll agree to disagree just a little bit on that. I almost feel like it was just more like maybe not quite that. How do you say this? professional level of her being an escort. Like it might have just been more of a like, I'm gonna get out here
Cash.
and do this. Yeah, cash flow type thing. I don't feel that she was that established.
No,
It
I don't.
doesn't feel like that.
No, I think in that line of work, though, I think it's safe to say that she would have had interactions with doctors and
Oh,
politicians and
high
newspaper
end
editors
people.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
people from the mob. Like she was living in a world that was inherently dangerous, and
Oh yeah. That's
I
yeah.
I don't think she was stupid. I think she was from what I've read and what I've seen, I think she was quite adept at manipulating situations so they always
Mhm.
come round to her. Like she would manipulate something so it was always in her benefit. She wasn't going around and sleeping with these guys for next to nothing. She was getting financial and probably sexual gratification out of it as well.
I would assume there's going to be that monetary gain that she wants from it because the whole what I would say the whole thing about her is a lot of people just assume that she's just actress. That's like, and no, that never even happened really. Not saying it's not true, but saying that that wasn't like the thing, the
No,
whatever at the
no.
time. I can't
She,
even
she
get my words
she's
right, but
she's closer to being the great grandmother of OnlyFans than she is to being a movie star.
I mean, yeah, it's honestly, and it's the truth. And to go back on your thing with the motive and how you're like, well, we're kind of stuck because we don't have a motive, but like, do you need a motive? Think
Well,
about that. Like, let that kind of sit in. Well, I get it. Like, as a normal, rational person, you always think that you have to have a reason why something happens. But if you've seen a little movie called Scream, ask Billy Loomis. Did
yeah,
Norman Bates have a motive? Don't think so. Come on.
yeah,
But honestly, I had to say that. But honestly, I don't think that some of these killers don't necessarily have a motive. I don't think it was as clear cut. It's not black and white. There's all this gray that we're never going to, 50 Shades of Murder gray, right?
yeah,
We're never going to know. Did he meet her and just, you know what? I'm going to kill her. I don't know. Did he meet her and it went bad? And he was like, this feels like I want to kill her. Like,
yeah,
maybe, but we don't know.
yeah,
But like I said, sometimes things just happen because they happen. And unfortunately, we don't get closure. We don't get that motive. As like
yeah,
it's not as easy as like Dahmer. Dahmer was just like, oh, I'm lonely and I want a companion for life.
yeah.
That's why
So
he killed people.
yeah, so I'm going to eat them and put them in barrels in my apartment so they're
And
always
put him,
close to.
that's why he was eating crock pots
Yeah,
full of penises because he's like, I want to slow cook your dick into me. Like
yeah.
literally, that was him. But take that,
that
use
is
that in your next sexy
that,
time.
that is
I want to
arguably your
slow cook your dick.
that is arguably your best line since he's keeping a box of vulvas. Why the fuck is he keeping a box of vulvas?
Well, he had his mama's vulva. Like,
Uh,
I could see that. That is no, sir. No,
no.
sir. No.
Um,
Anyways, guys.
based based on the fact that Elizabeth lived in this dangerous world and she lived in it for
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
a
yeah.
while, I think she was quite adept in this world. I don't think she would put
Yeah.
herself in a situation where she felt in danger. And
Immediate danger.
yeah, and this is why I don't think it was premeditated. I think it was a fit of rage followed by lots of sick stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
I think like the way her body was staged was to send a message. I don't know what the message was, but it was a very bold statement the way she was staged, and I don't know if Hodel had a message to send, which is
I
why I
don't think
keep
that he did. I
no,
don't
which
think
is
it was a message necessarily. Maybe he had some kind of superiority already complex. This is what happens when you try to use real fucking fancy words and you're from the South. Anyways, maybe he had the complex though of like, look how skilled of a surgeon he is. Look, maybe it was a display of his work. Look at this. Look at this magnificent thing. This is a human. Look how clean cut she is. Think about that. Like,
yeah,
that's a motive if you
yeah.
think about it.
Yeah, see, it's like I keep coming back to Walter Bailey. Like Walter was a renowned surgeon. He was
Yeah,
a
yeah, he was
prominent
too.
member of the LA medical community. He was the chief of
Yes.
staff at the LA County Hospital, associate professor
Yeah.
at the University of California. He had a wife, an adopted daughter. He tragically lost a
Mhm.
son in the 1920s,
Yeah.
and this would often send him into a spiraling rage, and that's documented. We know
Okay.
he had rage fits
Yes.
around the death of his son.
Yes, yes,
Now,
yes.
he was successful, minus the loss of his son. He kind of had everything going right up until it didn't. So in early 1946, he was removed from his position as the chief of staff at the hospital, which cost him his job as the associate professor. Now, he was struggling financially and he went and opened a local medical practice to make ends meet. His wife left him while this was all going on as well. So he had a bad couple of
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
There's no official reason as to why he lost his job or why his wife left him, but most people think it's down to his erratic behavior around this kind of PTSD that he suffered from the loss of his son. And
Mhm.
that wasn't a thing back then. PTSD, no one knew what that was. Like you were just having a crazy moment. Like that's how it
Yeah.
was treated. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah.
rumored to have used prostitutes to release his stress. Now, if we think that he's using prostitutes, there's a likelihood in the area he would have come across Elizabeth. But
Yeah.
that's a bit too easy. So how about instead, like Walter's adopted daughter was called Barbara Lindgren, and she was one of the witnesses at Virginia Short's wedding, who was Elizabeth's sister.
Mhm.
So I can categorically tell you that Walter Bailey knew Elizabeth Short because they were both at the wedding. The likelihood is they would
Yeah.
have met. Now, Walter met the friend of his daughter, this young, attractive girl, and probably had no interest whatsoever because at the time he was happily married with a high flying career. Now, when that all went to shit and he started using prostitutes, he probably went, "Oh, I remember that really fit girl from the wedding. She's a hooker now. Let me call her up." So this is my theory. Hear me out.
Mhm.
I think Walter met Elizabeth at the wedding in 1945. And I
Okay.
think they maybe had a conversation and he had a decent understanding of what she'd done for a living, but he didn't act on it because he was happy. When everything went to shit in 1946, he contacted her and enlisted her services. I think they met at the cocktail bar where she was last seen.
Uh-huh.
I think the rage killing was triggered by something Elizabeth said, probably around the death of his son, that it just set him off. Her body was staged a couple of blocks from his ex-wife's house, and he was on the route to his wife's work. So I think the
Mhm.
body was staged as a message to his wife, as a fuck you to his wife. Um, on a separate note, in 1948, Walter was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's and a form of schizophrenic rage behavior.
Mhm.
Now, I said I found the location where I think it happened, but before we talk about that, we're going to take a very quick break.
There's nothing better than hanging out with your best friends chatting horror movies. At Voices from the Mausoleum, we have programming that covers everything from found footage to gaming, interviews, and even the first horror morning talk show. Come join us. We're all friends at the Mausoleum.
So make sure you go and check out all of the members of the You Run Podcast Network, yourunpodcast.com. There's something on there for everyone. It's not just horror, it's not just
Yes.
true crime. There's a real mix. So we spoke about the Astor Hotel earlier, which is potentially a murder site for
Mhm.
Elizabeth. Now, when we're talking about Walter Bailey, he'd need a location that is relatively secluded, no witnesses, easy traveling distance from the bar where I think he picked her up, and also to
Yeah.
where the body would be dumped. He's not taking her out of state to do this. It would also need to be somewhere that can be easily cleaned down because torturing, draining a body of blood, and cutting it in half is not a clean exercise. Like you can't do that in a
Mhm.
room that's carpeted like that.
No. No, 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 no.
Um, how about a medical practice smack bang in the middle of all the required locations that has rooms that are all tiled floor to ceiling with drains in the middle, that
Mhm.
has not only the tools to to make the injuries and to make the incisions,
Mhm.
but also the medical equipment to drain the body completely of blood.
Yeah.
Like, I think this guy's got it all, but so's Hodel. It's like
That's the thing. It was a doctor. I just firmly believe, whether it be your guy or my guy,
one of them done it.
one of them done it, you guys, because no killer can cut her body in half in that way without having the skill to do it. They didn't fucking YouTube then. It's not like you could Google it. Don't do that now, please don't. But just saying, like you had to be taught that.
You say don't Google it. I guarantee you could Google that and get a YouTube
Somebody's
tutorial.
gonna Google it. Don't cut your partner in half, please. God damn it.
I did have a section here in my notes to talk about American Horror Story. Did you have anything else you want to talk about American Horror Story?
That was just really the gist of it, because it's only basically that one episode, and it's like in Murder House, it's basically a bunch of different stories. You know how, if you've ever seen Murder House, it's one of my favorite seasons.
Which season?
It's the first season.
It is
the
season
very
1.
first one.
Yeah.
I just love it because it's so good. But and Ryan Murphy has a great brain, but when he started getting into like Roanoke and stuff, like, bitch, bye. I ain't watching that shit. I don't understand it. Get the fuck out of my face. But I love the first 3 seasons, especially of American Horror Story. But basically that's it. She does come back in another episode when the therapist, the dad, what is his fucking name?
I don't know. He's one of the most handsome men on the planet, the dad.
Oh, I met him at a fucking Texas Frightmare in 2022. What the fuck did I just go blank? Oh my God, y'all, I'm so stupid. It's because I'm 41. I'm going to think of his name. It's going to drive me crazy. But anyways, he is like seeing the ghost and things like that. And she is one of his patients, but really she's trying to, like, it's almost like even when she died and was killed, her ghost is basically slutty. She's trying to get with him, but I don't blame her, because I'd be all up on that.
Yeah, and I don't blame him either.
There lies me.
Because the woman who plays
he's good looking.
And the woman who plays the Black Dahlia in that series,
Mina Savari.
Oh wow, just wow.
She's in American Pie too. She's in the first American Pie and American Beauty.
Yeah,
she's the one with the roses. You know, that Kevin Spacey, bad dude. Anyway, that he's like mystified with. No, he's not a good dude.
He's a future case for us, without a doubt.
Oh God, I mean, like back in the day, like, he's in 7, and that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
You know, he's not in it much, but anyways. But with all that being said, no, that's literally it. Just like a brief little taste of it. And of course, it's fabricated for the show. It's not exactly like what happened, but, you know, I think they romanticize it much more in the show. So you're like, oh. And honestly, the original Black Dahlia, like the actual woman, I mean, she was striking for that time frame. And I say striking because I don't find her to be like a beauty, but she was striking. So there's a difference in being like, oh, well, she just, for that time, her eyes and her black hair. So obviously she was striking, but
I think I'd describe her as the Wish version of Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, I think a lot of the women in that time era, there were some really timeless beauties. I mean, really beautiful women. But if you really look at them now, and then you look at women now, and like the trends and like the beauty treatments and all this kind of stuff, it's so different. I know this is not the podcast about beauty 101, but I'm going to tell you guys, they did some crazy shit. They had some little skinny ass eyebrows. Like, they was a vibe. But at the same time, that was considered what was the beauty standard. Marilyn Monroe, very beautiful. But like, if you've seen her, Norma Jean, as her regular self, that's not what she looked like. She didn't have blonde hair.
No, like, no, it was all an act.
She just plain Jane. She was just plain Jane. But yeah, so like a lot of them, things were different, but I don't know. That's all I really have to say. I did kind of have a song, but like now I feel like it's in bad taste, and I don't know if I should do it.
We'll come to the song at the end. Like
Okay.
we'll get listeners' thoughts first. So I put this out
Yeah.
to everywhere. We got responses from TikTok and we got responses from
Okay.
Instagram. So I
Yeah.
asked for people's general thoughts on the case and kind of just
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
wanted to say, really. We got Anna C. Summers. This is such a sad case. I've seen the movie several times. In my opinion, I think it was a
Mm.
married man who wanted to hide a secret, which again,
I
valid.
mean, maybe
It,
I'm not going to start a fight via internet with anyone today.
No, we've got Kate Petrelli 27. This is my favourite case. I can't bloody wait, which is really cool because
Yay.
they're
Yeah.
excited for
Yeah.
this episode. So
Yeah.
um,
Yay.
on Instagram, Kay Lampe, which is Kate, a really cool account, saw
Uh-huh.
lots of photos at the Museum of Death. Really awful. Not an opinion, just very sad. So she went to the Museum of Death and she saw all the photos of the crime scene and loads of Dahlia memorabilia, which
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I've never been to I've never been to anywhere that's like that. Like
They
I've
have
been
one
to
in
museums.
California. They have like a death museum type thing in California, I believe. And now I've never been to California. That's pretty far for me. But I would love to go. It'd be cool just to see the real memorabilia because it's nothing like too macabre. It's typically just like the memorabilia from that time. It's not necessarily like as spooky as you think it is. It's more like interesting, I think.
Yeah, there's one not too far from me that's got like I can't think what it's called, but it's in like a little offshoot of a historic castle. And
Uh
they've
huh.
collected all of the memorabilia that is of the worst parts of history. So they've got
Okay.
loads of Nazi memorabilia and loads of
Oh.
like all the horrible things, like things from serial killers and things from robberies.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Uh, and I'd like to go just to say I've been and had a look. Like that stuff's dark history, but it's kind of interesting as well. And I'd like to go
You
and have a
should
look
go
in
if you're not. How far is it?
a couple of hours.
It's not bad. You've driven further than that for work, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's how
Like,
I know where it is. I drove past it when I was going out to a
yeah,
job.
just like pack up whoever and go. We don't have castles in the United States, I don't believe. Like I always tell Steven, I'm like, I legit want a castle. I want to be like fucking Dracula and I want to live in a castle. And he's like, I'm pretty sure you can't get one in the United States. And I'm like, well,
uh,
my dreams. Thank you.
I also asked if there was any that anyone out there wanted us to talk about. Black.
Okay.
I was really open with this. Like anything Black Dahlia related, let us know. We'll talk about it. Dewey Pod
Okay.
Monster, John and Sean, thanks guys.
Uh-huh.
Waded
Yeah.
in said we'd like you to talk about the Black Dahlia murder band. Um, I didn't know these were a
Oh,
thing.
oh God. There's a yeah, there is. And there's a documentary slash I want to say it's a documentary, like a show. When I was Googling, not Googling, I'm sorry. I was on my TV, Roku TV stuff, and I was like, let me find all the documentaries and stuff like that for the Black Dahlia. The movie looks really fucking stupid. I'm sorry. I just don't think I want to watch it. And that came up, and I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
like
Metallica, I want to be like, get out of here.
that. I'd never heard of them.
I don't
So
know much about them.
they were formed in 2001 and they're a death metal band. No prizes for
Ugh.
guessing what
Blech.
inspired their name. They released a demo tape in 2001, an EP in 2002, which led them being signed to Metal Blade Records in 2003.
Never heard of it.
They're obviously quite good because they've had 9
Nope.
studio albums, 8 of which have been in the US Billboard 200, with a peak of 31 with their 5th album, Ritual. In 2022, their frontman died from suicide, which is horrible.
That's
Sad. They
that's
hosted
dark as fuck.
they hosted a tribute concert to him, and the guitarist stepped down as guitarist and took up the mantle of lead vocalist. They're due to
Mm,
release their 10th album later this year. So yeah, if you're interested in that, their 10th album is
I'm
due
not.
out probably August. But this is how
Thank
this show
you.
works. Like, if you want
Thank
us to talk
you.
about
No.
something, just ask and we will.
But please don't ask me because I don't like metal music. I especially do not like death metal. And if you've not seen me, I don't know what about that would make you ever question to think Heather likes. I don't. You know why? Because I'm old and like it sounds like a bunch of racket.
Yeah, see, I think Heather's.
My
I think
stance on it.
yeah, Heather's more into like this sort of rock.
I don't even know what
Like
kind of is that like Nickelback? Like
this is just a generic. Yeah, this is all right.
I don't like that. What makes you think I like that too? No, I am definitely into 80s. I like 90s alternative. I'm more grungy rock, so like not
Yeah,
Kurt Cobain.
Nirvana. Oh no, I'm
No.
a big
No,
Nirvana
no.
fan.
I'm more like one hit wonders. I like things like the Gin Blossoms and Spin Doctors and like shit like that, like 90s and stuff. I don't know. I like a lot of music, but that's
Not.
actually nobody's
not
beeswax. So stay out of my life. Thank you.
um,
Sometimes I listen
what?
to stuff and I'm like embarrassed for myself, and I'm like, you don't need to know what I listen to. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, no one needs to know that Heather's bouncing around her kitchen to Barbie Girl on a Wednesday afternoon.
Baby shark doo 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 doo. Baby shark doo doo. That's what I did yesterday for Campbell. Like, oh my god, he's obsessed with it now.
Yeah, don't get him started on Coco Melon.
No, no, we're not. But we just started trying to get into Bluey, and it
Yeah.
is very cute. And I think that I can watch it. I love the Australian accents. It's cute. It's very cute, but kind of sad actually.
Yeah, our kids watched Bluey. Or watched Bluey when they were younger. I
like
quite
it. I like
I
it.
quite liked
Yeah.
Bluey. Now, I watched an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which seems to be coming up regularly on this show. I need to talk about it just so I can get it out of my system. So
Okay.
this episode is the most sensationalized, factually incorrect piece of shit I have ever watched in my life. They skipped over every single suspect we've discussed on these two episodes, didn't mention them at all. They instead linked this to the Cleveland torso murders. Now,
Okay.
I
I
had a look.
vaguely know that.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it.
Now, I'll be honest, it took me about 3.5 minutes on Google to completely debunk the link. Like, there is no link.
It's not
Like, it's
that. They're
just
just boring.
also, like, they put so much effort into make the Black Dahlia fit like the Cleveland torso murders, like so much effort, like the most inane facts that were the same. It's like both of the victims had skin, and this cannot be a coincidence. It was that level of bullshit.
God.
Yeah, it was.
Robert Stack would be rolling in his grave. Update, you bunch of fucking idiots. Like, what are you doing?
Like Unsolved Mysteries do better. It's hosted by someone Vivera, and I can't think of his name. He is like the most tanned, ridiculous.
I don't know who that is, but I mean, like, I know they redid the series or tried to come up with stuff, but it's still.
Have you seen Snatch, the movie Snatch, the Guy Ritchie movie?
No, I haven't. I know what you're talking about, but I have not seen it. I know who Guy Ritchie is, but
anyone who's seen that movie, the guy who hosts Unsolved Mysteries now is the guy who plays the Texan who comes over to the UK.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, I'll watch that episode, and honestly, once you've watched it, just message me with all of your rage, because I sat there for. It's like they do this thing in 10 minutes in the middle of like an hour episode.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, it was bad.
They just look. Bye. That's what you say. Bye. I ain't watching this shit. No.
That just about wraps up the Black Dahlia. We're going to be back on the 1st of July for another case. We have no idea what it's going to be yet. We may even give you the option of me and Heather doing an Unsolved Mysteries style episode where we'll go the whole hog. Yeah.
Very. I can be Robert Stack for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. There's a couple of other ideas I've got bouncing around where we can just do a
Okay.
fun, goofy episode.
Sure.
Thank you to everyone who's listened. Don't forget to recommend us to a friend, leave us a review. We're going to have something wonderful for you in a couple of weeks, whatever it will be. And I'm going to pass things over to Heather now, and she can say goodbye for us.
All right, I'm gonna say goodbye, but
Are
I
you going to
do
do your
want to
song?
say I'm gonna. That's what I was gonna. Excuse you. So what I was going to
Sorry.
say before Scott is trying to steal my thunder. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm not. Listen to me. No, we're not going to do that. This is the thing. So I thought of this song because I was like, well, both of our theories, we just know that a man killed the Black Dahlia, right? We know it was a man.
Yeah.
So I was like, what would be a good like parody song? And it just popped in my head about 10 minutes ago, really, where I was really like, I got it. So it's going to go, oh, Black Dahlia, bam a lamb. Oh, Black Dahlia, bam a lamb. This bitch met some men, bam a lamb. One of them hit her in the head. Bam, she dead.
I like it. I like it.
That's it. Anyways, in all seriousness, that was extremely distasteful. But if you know me, I'm pretty high class. But I want to say thank you for listening to this episode. Please, we need a fun case. We need something really cool and interesting. So if we do a poll, Scott, we need to get some good shit out there. Vote, get us a good case. If not, Scott's going to come up with something for us crazy to do. And who knows? I can only do Robert Stack's voice for so long. Update. So until next time, you guys, stay safe, stay spooky, and we'll see you next time. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.